With The Mandalorian Season 3 finale just around the corner, a lot of fans are also embracing the Ahsoka Tano series that's going to be led by Dave Filoni and really set up the next phase of Star Wars TV shows, many of which, by the way, have yet to have been announced, that will be unveiled at this year's D23 event. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. Now, one thing that a lot of fans have really been very much skeptical about has a lot to do with exactly where all of these shows are heading, right? They're not quite sure exactly, how it's going to lead into the sequels and which ways it's going to lead into the sequel trilogy movies, and John and Dave have been elaborating on all of that and exactly what they had to do and sacrifice to really make live-action adaptations of Star Wars Legends material, and it's something that's rather reassuring because basically we know now that George Lucas's treatments and his overall stories that he endorsed many years ago is going to be made in live-action form for new shows, new movies, and all the like. Now, recently John and Dave, they've been talking directly to the fans endlessly every single day about The Mandalorian, about Ahsoka, and even about The Mandalorian Season 4 and where that's going to possibly go. Now, one thing is for certain is that we know that Jon Favreau is very well aware about fan criticism. He pays very close attention to all of that, and that's one thing that I like about Favreau is that this is a type of creator that takes criticism very well. He took it very well with the criticism about some very minor decisions that they had to make in the Book of Boba Fett and more. Now that brings us to the next very big thing here about what he had to say. Now, with John and Dave recently giving out multiple interviews about the future of Star Wars, at one point, they got on the subject about the sequel trilogy films and were able to answer a couple of questions related to how they are going to be changing the initial canon of the sequels. Now, John went on to say the following, first by, of course, elaborating on this. Well, we have been creating the story, to bring back Legends and George's stories that he approved decades ago, but in that process, we kept hitting obstacles and brick walls to the sequel trilogy canon pieces. We are now developing multiple plans to break the sequel trilogy canon that will give us many opportunities to explore the Legends lore as accurately as possible in significant ways for the hardcore fans to be satisfied. Now, we knew that we were eventually going to hit this road at one point in order to tell the Legends tales the way that we wanted. So yes, we are going to be breaking some of the canon choices that JJ and Ryan had made in the films, and it may sting a little bit to the sequel trilogy fans, but we feel we had to make the right choice to make things right for the stories that we wanted to tell in our upcoming films and shows surrounding Legends. I'm working on doing this also heavily with Dave Filoni's film that he will be directing and creating, and how that film will be an even bigger step after the shows on how we break up the sequel trilogy canon. Now let me just stop right here for 1 second. Now, we know that Dave Filoni's movie, by the way, was just announced as Star Wars Celebration. It's basically going to be an opener to a new Mandalorian trilogy, or a new sequel trilogy, if you will. Now, the thing that we talked about before in the past, and we talked about this months ago, is that Dave and John have been working on these new sequel trilogy movies. Not that it's going to necessarily be a new 7, 8, and 9, but it's going to be a new trilogy that focuses all on post-Return of the Jedi content. Bringing Luke back to theaters, Ahsoka, Din, Grogu, Boba Fett, Thrawn, Ezra, all these major characters on the big screen with a higher budget that's going to have a more cinema look or style to it. And that's the one thing that I think a lot of fans are really rooting for. Now, the thing here about John and Dave, alright, what John had to say here about how they kept on hitting brick walls and obstacles on how to make the live-action adaptations of Legends properly because the sequel trilogy canon kept getting in the way. So in that process, what John was able to confirm is that they are literally breaking the canon, stripping it down, and rebuilding new canon for the actual Star Wars movies, and how that's going to allow them to tell the Legends tales that they want to tell to the fans. Now, we saw in the latest chapter of Mando Season 3, we got to see the Praetorian Guards. There's going to be some little connections here and there to the sequels, but overall, the game plan by Jon and Dave is to change major pieces of the canon to give them that freedom that they need to tell those legend stories, such as, of course, you know, the ones surrounding Luke, or surrounding, of course, Leia and other characters out there, but I digress. He goes on to elaborate, this is going to range from characters' backstories to their decisions in the movies and specific meaning to certain elements of those films that I have noticed many fans have some kind of issues with. It's my main goal to finally be able to adapt all of the Legends books and comics as much as I can into live action. Myself and Dave have been so excited sharing how we are going to be doing this with George, and George is just as excited as we are, how we will be doing all of this to make it happen. It truly is going to be something that fans have never seen before. Now guys, to really kind of put things out there a little bit more simple, he most likely and certainly is elaborating, or alluding to, I should say, the world between worlds. We know that Ahsoka Season 2, it's going to feature this realm heavily. It's going to have a lot to do with, of course, changing the course of history, what you can and cannot do, what kind of rule systems are in place of the WBW, stuff like that. Now, so far, we only got to see an example of that, where Ezra literally saves Ahsoka's life from the hands of Darth Vader and changes the course of history. Think about it this way, what if Ezra did not save Ahsoka? The turn of events would have been huge if Ahsoka died. You wouldn't have had, the events of the Ahsoka series, you wouldn't have had Ahsoka with Luke, stuff like that would have been shifted completely. So it's little things like that that's going to create a butterfly effect on the specific changes that they will be making in the WBW. The other thing is this, is that they're also going to be making retcons and changes in an out-universe style, and what I mean by that is simple rewrites of the Skywalker saga, certain elements of the stories that will just be simply rewritten without anything really being told in-universe. An in-universe example is the world between worlds. Out-universe, of course, being Jon and Dave just doing their thing, rewriting elements here and there. So I think at the end of the day, Jon knows that a lot of fans dislike the sequels, they dislike The Last Jedi. He himself even admitted this before in the past, that it's one of the main reasons why he signed on for the live-action series, The Mandalorian, in the first place, was to eventually kind of just bring Luke into the story and give the fans something special surrounding that character, as well as just telling a good story, that being Mando Season 1 and 2. Season 3 seems to be a mixed bag right now between fans, so overall, there's a lot of work being poured in by Jon and Dave to break sequel trilogy canon, to give them the freedom that they need to tell all these upcoming legend stories. That's basically their overall plan. We know that the Ahsoka show is going to be a retelling of Heir to the Empire in the beginning stages, but the Dave Filoni movies are really going to set that up in a more accurate way. So anyways, guys, fill me in below in the comments what you all have to say about this, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
Gun in hand, we are alone again. From night to moon, we hear them moans again.